How to be a confident arguer before the court. How to confidently argue a case before the court. That's what I'm going to talk about in this video today. So my dear young advocate friends, stay tuned. The very first thing any young advocate feels when he thinks of appearing before the court is fear. He feels the fear inside, and that many times cripples him or her from even starting his or her appearances before the court. Fear cripples, fear grips, because one knows that when one is going to argue a case before the court, the attention of the entire courtroom, not only of the judge, but also of those present inside the courtroom, the lawyers, the clerks, the clientele, the staff of the court, is going to be focused on you. And that makes you greatly conscious. You become conscious about whether you will be speaking right, whether your responses will be right, whether your presentation will be proper, whether your English will be right. All those fears start cropping up in your head with the thought of arguing before the court. And that is where this video will help you. The opposite of fear is confidence. So if you want to be a confident arguer, you will have to do certain things before you become a confident arguer. What are those? We will see them step by step in this video. I will also add some of my experience in this video in sharing with you how to be a confident arguer. Now let me tell you, friends, being a confident arguer before the court is not impossible. It may be difficult at first, but once you do this, once you learn this, once you master this art, you will start enjoying this process. It's the most enjoyable thing that a practicing advocate can do in his law practice. If you ask anyone, what is it, which is that action of an advocate in his entire law practice? What is that task which makes him stand out as eminent lawyer, as a very clever lawyer, as an impressive lawyer? The answer is most likely to be the style of arguments, the way an advocate argues. That makes an advocate stand out from the crowd. That makes an advocate impressive than others when he argues a case well. See, there are many tasks an advocate is expected to perform, rather is required to perform. The tasks include taking instructions from the client, speaking to clients, communicating with clients, then drafting a case, then researching for his case, researching the case laws, the Bayer Acts, and studying those, analyzing them, and then arguing a case before the court. Out of all these tasks, the one that makes him stand out is oral arguments. Don't you agree to this? Or if you have any other response, you can post it in the comments box so that I can also understand what do you consider is the most important task of an advocate. Of course, every task is important, but the one that makes him shine, the one that makes him stand out in the courtroom in his law profession is the way he presents a case before the court, the way he argues a case before the court. Having said that, now let me tell you, there are certain steps which, if a young advocate takes, can make him a confident arguer. Let me tell you one thing. Becoming a confident arguer before the court is not impossible. It may be somewhat difficult at beginning, but with practice, with enough proper efforts, it is definitely possible to be a confident arguer before the court, before any court. The first step is decision. You have to decide to be an arguing lawyer. See, once a person becomes an advocate, there are many ways of working without even actually appearing before the court. Like some people may go for documentation, some people may choose to just be drafters, some people may choose to just brief the senior lawyers, and some people may choose to be liaising between an arguing lawyer and the client. That kind of work can also be done, but they wouldn't be arguers. They would just be at that level. If you really want to be a confident arguer, something must happen inside you, and that is deciding to be an arguing lawyer, deciding to be a courtroom lawyer. Of course, that doesn't mean that you would not be doing other tasks of advocacy like drafting, researching, and talking to clients. I am not saying that. What I mean to say is that you take a conscious decision also to be an arguing lawyer. Unless you take that decision inside, you will not be taking any step forward. You will otherwise just be taking a back seat and would simply be watching the court proceedings and would simply be donning the black coat and the bands, coming to court and going home, doing nothing. That is not what you are going to be. You are going to be a confident arguing lawyer. So the first step is decision. Now, merely taking a decision and simply relaxing won't help. You also have to take action. And that is the second step that you are going to take if you really want to be a confident arguer. Take action. And by that I mean, argue the case. Actually argue the case. Now, I know that is very intimidating at first. Those who are new here, they must be feeling dreadful at the very thought of appearing before the court. I very much understand their position. But let me tell you, unless you take that step of actually appearing before the court and conducting a case, you will not be moving forward. You see, the antidote of fear is action. Let me tell you, the fear is always going to be there. Always. Some extent of fear would always be there, however senior you become, however accomplished you become in arguing skills. Some fear will always be there lurking inside your head. So understand that fear is natural. Only thing that happens at the initial stage is the fear is massive, and with passage of time, it gets diminished. The experts in the field of public speaking say that some fear is always good. Fear helps. Fear rather gives you energy. And that is right. Some nervousness, some fear inside you keeps you going. That has been my experience too. Even at this stage of my practice of 30 years, whenever I appear before the court, some fear is always there inside. Now the fear of not being able to communicate or not being able to respond to the court's questions or not being able to remember facts, that is not there. The fear is of different things. The fear is of uncertainty, or sometimes there is an entirely new point involved in the matter. So, some nervousness of putting across that point to the court exists, that cannot be denied. But one still goes ahead, conquering that fear without worrying about the consequences. So, what I mean to say is that at the beginning of your career, fears of so many things will always be there. And the fear will be massive. It will be very much, it will be large. But as you go on progressing, as you go on practicing, your fears will be reduced. And that is what you have to go through. The actual experience, the actual practice, action. So, grab every opportunity to appear before the court. Argue cases in your senior's chamber, of course with his permission and after sufficient preparation. I'm not saying that you just take a brief, go before the court and start talking blah 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 blah. No, I'm not suggesting that. What I mean to say is grab every opportunity. If you're afraid of arguing normal cases, start with arguing small applications. There could be applications for bringing legal representatives on record, which really doesn't require much preparation. I mean, it requires preparation, but not much deep preparation. There could be an application for condonation of delay, or there could be some instances of presenting yourself before the registrar. So that's how you start grabbing opportunities. Once you get some confidence, some experience, then you start arguing normal cases also. Rather seeing your performance, maybe your senior will hand over to you some case saying, hey, just take this case and go and argue. That might happen. It happened with me. When my seniors saw me arguing cases before the court, he started handing over the cases to me. Nahush, kal ye tumko kar dalna hai. Ye case tum kar dalo. And I'm really thankful to my senior who has always trusted me and gave me lots and lots of opportunity. And that's how I built my confidence. Let me tell you, I was also greatly underconfident when I entered this profession. My English was poor. My confidence was greatly low. I didn't have any experience of public speaking. The only thing that I had inside me was a desire and a decision I had taken to be a good lawyer and passion for it. 30 years before, when the first case was handed over to me, and when I started arguing that case, my voice was cracking. I was literally shaking and shivering before the court, but I still continued arguing. The honorable judge could make out that this is a new man. The honorable judge went into an encouraging mode. What a pleasant surprise it was. Thanks to the honorable judge who encouraged me, who issued notices in that very first case, which made me really elated over that small achievement. But then, all experiences were not like that. There were difficult times also. On later occasions, whenever I argued cases, I stumbled, I fumbled, I forgot, I made mistakes. I was even scolded by the judges. But then I just went on working, taking action, trying to improve myself every time I appeared before the court. And that's how one goes on improving oneself. I suggest you an interesting alternative to actually taking action before the court. I'm aware that it may not be possible for you to have available with you many opportunities to actually argue a case before the court. There is an interesting way of practicing before the court. Now, of course, let me make it clear that this way that I'm suggesting is not substitute for the main thing, that is actually taking action of arguing before the court. But this alternative is supplemental to the main activity, and it can help greatly. So what is this alternative? That is the technique of visualization. Visualization, as you know, is the ability to see moving images inside your head, the ability to create your virtual reality inside your head. You know, the experts in the field of psychology and personal success have always said, on the basis of research, that whenever your mind is able to passionately visualize an experience, the mind believes it to be true. The mind is not in a position to differentiate between the reality and non-reality. The mind believes it to be true. Athletes use this kind of technique for perfecting their skills. They visualize inside their head that they are taking every move perfectly and they are accomplishing what they really want to. That is the technique you can also use for perfecting your skill of argumentation before the court. How do you do that? By visualizing inside your head that you are actually before the court and confidently presenting your case to the judges and confidently responding to the court's questions, confidently satisfying their queries, and confidently coming out after finishing your arguments. This much visualization exercise you can always do at your own place, inside your bedroom, or wherever you wish to. This is not daydreaming, my friends. I'm not suggesting daydreaming. This is using your mind to the best of your advantage, using the principles of psychology that are established to the best of your advantage. If you supplement your daily practice with this technique of visualization, you will find your confidence greatly enhanced when you actually appear before the court. So inside your head, visualize the courtroom. Visualize your matter being called out by the court reader. Visualize you confidently entering the bar area and beginning your arguments before the court. See, while I am now sharing this with you, I am visualizing it myself inside my head. You also do the same with me. Visualize you initiating your arguments and the honorable judges giving a patient hearing to you and sometimes interacting with you by making some queries, by asking some questions, by trying to even disturb you in your train of thoughts, but you still standing there confident and poised and responding to the court's queries in a very peaceful and confident, logical, cogent manner. Then you finishing the facts of your case, the points of arguments, and coming out after finishing your arguments, coming out from the other side, walking confidently, feeling satisfied that everything that you wanted to put across you were able to do it successfully. Rest is, of course, in the hands of the court, but you on your part have done your job to the best of your ability. That satisfaction, that glow you are experiencing. This kind of visualization you can always do every day. I would suggest you do it every day. And the best time to do that is, firstly, when you wake up in the morning, and the second time is when you go to sleep at bedtime. Because again, the experts say that the transition time of falling asleep, waking and falling asleep, that transition time, your mind is very much receptive to whatever you desire, whatever you visualize. And same thing is about another transition time, from the state of sleep to waking up. In between that, when you visualize something very strongly and passionately, that tends to become a reality. And of course, one more important thing, always add emotion to your visualization. If you do that, there is a great chance that your experience will turn out to be true when you actually argue the case before the court. Wasn't that interesting, friends? And if you are liking this video, then wouldn't you like to hit the like button that is just below this video? Please do that now. Moving on. The third thing that you must do for being a confident arguer is always argue with preparation. Preparation is the third step. Of course, there is no such sequence as 1, 2, 3. Only for the sake of convenience, I am numbering these steps as step 1, step 2, step 3. What you have to understand is that these are the ingredients of being a confident arguer. So, the next thing that is most important is preparation. Anytime you appear before the court, you must ensure that you are thoroughly prepared for your case. Never appear without preparing your case. The preparation must be done at least a day before, so that all the intricacies of the case you have understood. Without understanding the niceties and the intricacies and the fineness of the points involved in the matter, you may not be able to argue confidently. Preparation gives confidence. So how do you prepare a case? Of course, by reading and studying it. But the most important thing is that you must take notes. And while taking notes, note down what shall be the sequence of your presentation. What shall you begin with? What shall come next? What should come next to that? What should come next to that? Be your own listener and imagine if you listen to yourself with that sequence. Would you like to hear more? Would you feel convinced? Would you feel satisfied? Or would it give rise to more questions? Yes, of course, any kind of argument gives rise to questions, and you should be ready with the answers to that. But see to it that there are very less loose ends when you present a case before the court. The loose ends that will be there, you have to be ready with the answers to that, trying to bring the court to your way of thinking. How to do that? That you have to practice on your own. You have to find out. You have to be creative. You have to learn. You have to do that on your own. Nobody is going to teach you that by holding your hand. And that will come with practice. So, preparation is the third thing. Never, never, never rely upon your memory entirely. There may be exceptional lawyers who solely rely upon their memories for conducting cases before the court. But please, I wouldn't suggest that for you. Even I don't do that. Many of the lawyers don't do that. They take notes. Good lawyers always take notes. Learn note taking techniques. There are many good techniques, one of which is mind mapping. I'll make a separate video on mind mapping someday, but today let me tell you that this is a wonderful technique of note taking. Mind mapping technique consists of taking notes in a fashion in which our mind actually thinks. Our mind doesn't think in a linear fashion. It thinks in a radial fashion. Radial means it, just like the rays of a sun radiate from the center, our thoughts also radiate like that. There is a central point, and connected to that is another point. There are other points emanating from the center, and then connected to the emanated point there is another point, then third point, fourth point. That is how it goes on forming. We don't always think in a linear fashion, but we think in a radial fashion. So our note taking can also be in that fashion. This is a very special and wonderful technique evolved by Tony Buzan. Tony Buzan has written so many books on this, and I would suggest you to search internet for this. Just type the words mind mapping in Google and you will come across many resources. So use good note taking technique. Have those notes before you when you argue a case, and then that's it. The next thing that you should do if you really want to be a confident arguer is to keep on improving every time you appear before the court. Every instance of your arguments must be an improvement upon what you were in the past. Always be creative, be introspective. Think what mistakes you made while arguing a case. Note them down and try to improve upon them next time you present a case before the court. Unless you do this, you would not feel motivated to go ahead in your journey of being a courtroom lawyer. And my dear friends, believe me, a day will come when you will be an accomplished arguer. You would just feel exhilarated having argued a good case before the court, having argued some good points before the court. It's a different joy. Of course, these things apart, that your argumentative skills will make you famous or may not make you famous, will bring you money or may not bring you money. These are professional things. But then there are certain things which will give you inner happiness, inner satisfaction. And that is the joy of being creative, the joy of actually doing something substantial, the real thing before the court. The next thing that I would suggest is to learn the art of persuasion. Read some good books on how human psychology works, how people think, how judges think, what influences people, what kind of arguments would tend to bring them to your way of thinking. Read some good books on that. There are many good books on human psychology. Like the famous one is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That gives basic principles of human psychology in day-to-day life. Then I also came across some books on persuasion by some other authors. They are there, you can find on internet, or you can find those good books on Amazon. And there are some books specifically devoted to winning arguments. I haven't read them, but I would suggest you read them. I intend to read them someday, provided, of course, my schedule permits me. So, read some good books on the art of persuasion. Now, you might be wondering, what about communication? Of course, communication is important. Your communication must, of course, be proper, perfect, and good. But even if your communication is not that perfect at this stage, I would suggest do not hold yourself back from going ahead with argumentation. With whatever status of your communication skills is as on today, go ahead, start arguing. In whatever way you can communicate with the court, just embark upon it. A day will come, you will be improving on all counts. Of course, provided you are passionate about it, you are committed to perfecting this art of argumentation before the court. So those things will fall in place. The important thing is be passionate, take steps, actually appear before the court, and keep on improving. There are many aspects of arguing and improving your skills of argument before the court. I will be covering them as and when they would occur to me. But I think today this much is enough in this video. And I hope whatever I have shared with you today would definitely prove to be of great help in at least motivating you, in at least helping you take some action. So with that, my dear friends, I take your leave and wish you all the best in your career.